Hello, I'm Mark Radcliffe, and this is Talking with Kate. I suppose, like everyone else, I was first confronted by Kate Bush when I heard Wuthering Heights, still one of the most extraordinary pop records ever made. An astonishing, intoxicating debut single for an artist who seemed like no other. A passionate, driven, unique, and, let's be honest, drop-dead gorgeous woman who at the time was just 19. Since then, her career has been one of the most fascinating in music. Despite a love of dance and expression, she toured just once, before retreating into the studio to make a series of audibly different yet consistently fascinating albums, which reached a peak with Hounds of Love in 1985. One side contained irresistibly off-kilter hits, the other an ambitious song suite. There was another classic album, The Red Shoes, in 1993, and then nothing. Nothing until November 2005. When a new double album, Ariel, was released to an avid public. The Bushites came out of hiding to empty the shelves, eager to immerse themselves in Kate world once again. Ariel entered the charts at number 3. Brit nominations followed. After 12 years with barely a peep, Kate had produced a contemporary classic.
All the banners stop waving and the flags stop flying.
In my now lengthy career as a minor disc jockey on a range of popular music radio stations, I've been lucky enough to meet and talk to most of the artists whose work I've admired. On occasion, I'll admit I get a little blasé at the prospect of interviewing another band or singer, but Talking with Kate was different. I pursued her relentlessly across the airwaves, building a montage of her photographs on the studio wall. And when I heard there was a new album, I raced in there, called the head of her record company, who conveniently went to the same school as me, and got an early interview request straight to the notoriously publicity-shy enigma. The adolescent fantasy who'd retreated into a private world of studios and motherhood. I got a call back. Kate might do it, but she wanted to talk to me, and they'd given her my mobile number. For days I jumped every time the phone rang, and was then disappointed when it wasn't her. And when she did ring, of course, sod's law, it went to answer phone. I've still got the message saved, though. It's not every day you get a missed call from Kate Bush, is it? Eventually we did speak, at length, and we got on well. She was funny and interesting and, well, normal, and I was... well, she could tell I wasn't a stalker or anything. So she invited me to her house for cheese flan and a chat about the new record. The record is wonderful, the cheese flan was delicious, and the chat? Well, decide for yourself. Here's me, Talking with Kate. Seems to have taken quite a long time. First album since 1993. Does it feel like a long time to you?
Yes.
Why has it taken so long?
Well, I suppose when I finished the last record, I really didn't want to go straight back in and make another one. I thought I'd take a year out, because up
Which
until
takes us to
point,
1994.
yeah, it's been a long year.
Yeah.
After about a year, I decided that it was just something I wanted to kind of stay with a bit longer. I suppose really since I was about 17 or 18, I'd gone and made a record, promoted it, and then gone straight back in to do the next one. And because they take such a long time, there's the impression that there's these big gaps in between where I'm not doing anything. But with a lot of those records, I was actually working on them for a long time, and it's quite an intense process. And I think it got to the point at the end of the last one where I just thought, I don't want to just go straight in and do another one. I want to just take a break and do some other stuff.
Why does it take so long?
Well, it's a very good question. I ask myself that. The actual writing is normally very quick.
Yeah.
With a lot of them, what I do is go in and just write straight onto tape.
Right, so that's the first time the song exists outside your head, is when you go in the studio?
Yes.
So it's all just in there, and it just all flows out? In one take?
No, it just sort of comes together.
Right.
It's a bit different with piano vocal tracks. that would be written at the piano as opposed to written onto tape, and then once I've written it I would then just put it onto tape. So that's a different process, because that's the way I always used to write when I was a little girl, really. I just used to sit at the piano and write the songs, and in a way it was like I was the tape machine, I guess. But once I started working in my own studio, I wanted to stop making demos, because the problem was you'd make a demo and it would be really good, but you couldn't use it because it wasn't, you know, technically sounding right. So you try to reproduce it and it would never sound the same. It wouldn't have the atmosphere or the buzz. So I thought, well, let's not make demos, let's just put it straight onto master tape. And that way, even though you might redo elements of it, you've always got that initial energy and atmosphere.
It's called Ariel. There's a sea of honey and a sky of honey. What's the concept that's driving it?
Well, one of the things I thought I did wrong with the last record was I think it was too long. And what I was trying to do was give people as much for their money as possible. With the last record, I was making a CD as opposed to a vinyl record.
It's a problem, isn't it? I think a lot of my favourite albums, there might be 8 tracks on them, and it's great, and you can turn it over and everything. And there was this thing with CDs where people think it takes 70 minutes, therefore we should do 70 minutes. And it's a mistake, isn't it? It can be a mistake.
I think it's very difficult, because I think as an artist you want to give people their money's worth, and in a lot of ways people's attention span doesn't really last that long. And what was so great about vinyl records was you had that forced gap. I suppose also I always really liked the process of making Hounds of Love, which was a similar idea, except that was one side of a record rather than 2 records. So in some ways this is a bit like a kind of larger version, more like a sort of Irish Wolfhounds of Love.
Yeah. Ariel is Kate Bush's first album since The Red Shoes 12 years ago.
Could you see the eyes of the weather? Could you see the screaming and waving?
The lead track and first single from the album is called King of the Mountain. When it was released in October 2005, it was a tantalising taster for the album and got to number 4 in the charts. Like many of Kate's earlier singles, King of the Mountain was a great airplay hit and will be a staple of Radio 2's playlist for many years to come, I imagine.
Could you climb higher and higher?
King of the Mountain has enigmatic lyrics and is accompanied by an equally inscrutable video, containing references to National Enquirer-style fantasy objects such as the Man in the Moon, a Himalayan Yeti colony, and William Randolph Hearst's mansion.
Fill up his home with priceless junk.
All linked by an animated Elvis Vegas suit.
The wind is whistling.
I might be a bit thick, but despite this cascade of iconic information, I'm still no wiser as to what the song's actually about.
I think a lot of people haven't got a clue what it's about. And
you like that though, don't you?
Yes, I do. I think it's brilliant. And I think whatever I have in my head when I write it is important to me, but I think it's very important how that works for people who then listen to it or see it or whatever art form it is, because then they become a part of the process. It's like when you read a book, part of that process of reading that book is you as the reader. You're you know, as important as the book, really. I mean, it couldn't actually exist as a book unless you were there reading it. I think you become part of the process, so how you interpret it and mishear lyrics and ideas is great.
So you don't want to say what it's about, because you think that that kind of negates that process for people then?
Yeah, I think so in a way. I mean, I thought it would be interesting to put this out as a first single because people might be intrigued by the lyrics because, you know, they're not terribly straightforward. I don't think of myself as somebody who's going to come up with writing a hit single, so I thought that might just give it a bit of mileage, you know, that there would be a story there for people to try and discover.
You'd rather not have to talk about it at all?
Yes, I would, but I want people to know that the record's out there, and so I have to let people know that it's out there. But, you know, I just get on with my life, and so this, for me, is just a very small part of it. And yet for people standing at the outside looking in, this is the bit that they see, and then they have this impression of me just retreating away, you know, into some sort of big vampire castle or something. To me, it's mad, because, you know, this is just the little bit where I come and say, hi, you know, the album's out, please go and buy it.
Ariel is a 2-CD set. The first disc contains 7 songs, some of which seem to be concerned with feelings, whilst others are absorbed with direct references to Kate's domestic life. When I first heard this album, I was surprised by this apparent frankness, and I couldn't understand why an artist who seemed so protective of her privacy would present songs which seemed to put her deepest feelings up for public scrutiny. Wasn't there a contradiction in that?
I don't think that is a contradiction. I think that in a lot of ways it makes complete sense. And it's not that I guard my privacy fiercely, but, you know, I think the creative process is something that's very difficult to focus on. You have so many distractions. There's such an incredible amount of stuff that comes in to interfere with that process. You know, you've got so many technical things interfering with doing a vocal, for instance. I often think it's a bit like an actor trying to get into their role, and they can't have that take because the lighting was wrong.
Yeah.
Or they get a great take and then they've got to do it again because a bit of the set fell down. And it's almost like hanging on to that creative intention is actually very difficult throughout all the distractions that come along. And I think for me to get into that creative process, I have to have a sort of quiet place that I work from. And if I was living the life of somebody in the industry as a pop star or whatever, it's too distracting. It's too to do with other people's perceptions of who you are. And what's important to me is to be a human being who has a soul and who hopefully has a sense of who they are, not who everybody else thinks you are. And I think, you know, that's something that's very difficult for people who become extremely famous, to hang on to just being a human being.
At times, Ariel features lots of instruments, sounds, voices and complex arrangements. Other times, it's just Kate at the piano. But then, she's always had a vivid musical imagination, and I wondered where that first surfaced.
I remember it was that Wednesday, oh, when it rained and it rained.
I was probably about 9 when I first started to play around with just little ideas, but by the time I was 12 through to 14, I was taking it very seriously. And when I came home from school, I'd sit and play the piano.
Even at that age, you knew you were going to have a crack at it?
I don't know, I knew it was something that I felt sort of semi-obsessed by, really, which is that getting hooked process, which I think, again, I was actually very lucky to find that so young, because that allowed me to have a deeper connection with it somehow.
Do you still play the piano for fun? Or does it feel too much like work?
Well, I think my work is fun, and so there's not really a distinction, it's one and the same.
Then I took my laundry basket, put all the linen in it, and everything I could fit in it. All our dirty clothes that hadn't gone into the wash, and all your shirts and jeans and things, and put them in the new.
There's a song on the album primarily about a washing machine.
Washing machine.
Mrs.
Bartolozzi.
Bartolozzi.
Washing machine.
There will be some people who say, well, you know, perhaps you ought to get out more if you're writing a song about a washing machine.
Is it? Is it a song about a washing machine? I think it's a song about Mrs. Bartolozzi.
I don't know who Mrs. Bartolozzi is.
Well, she's this lady in the song who does a lot of washing.
It's not you, then?
No, it's not me.
Is it a real character or a fictitious one?
No, it's fictitious. But, you know, as soon as you have a child, the washing suddenly increases enormously.
Absolutely, it's on all the time.
And I was spending a lot of time in the washing room.
Yeah.
And what I like too is a lot of people actually think it's funny. And I think that's great, because actually I think it's one of the heaviest songs I've ever written. It's the idea of this woman who's kind of sitting there looking at all the washing going round.
Fish swim between my legs.
Tumbling around in the water, and then the water becomes the sea, and the clothes, and the sea, and the washing machine, and the kitchen. And I just thought it was just an interesting idea to play with.
Out of the corner of my eye, I think I see you standing outside. But it's just your shirt hanging on the washing line, waving its arm as the wind blows by. And it looks so alive, nice and white, just like it's climbed right out of mine.
There's a journey that goes on in that song, and I don't know where it leads, and it gets very sensual sounding. It almost gets very sexual sounding. I wonder whether the waves were a different kind of waves, or whether I was reading too much into it. There's one place where your skirt is up around the waist, and I was sort of reminded of the cover of Never Forever, with the drawing of you lifting your skirt and all these fairies and goblins emerging from under it. So I wonder.
I still can't look at that without laughing. I just...
It's great. I like that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of this sensual thing that comes out of the washing machine and doing the washing and all that. And I was kind of thinking you're a kind almost a musical Nigella, the sensuality of the domestic experience, you know. Did he think about that at all?
No.
Is that song about sex?
I don't think it's about sex, but I think it is quite sexy.
It made me think about that John Donne poem, The Good Morrow. The key line in it makes one little room and everywhere. The idea that everything you see is through this kind of, this domestic world that you create around you, that one place can be a kind of spyglass to lots of other places.
Well, I think in some ways, you know, we all see our lives from inside our heads, which aren't really connected to the physical world or the structure of time at all.
Washing machine.
That's what's so interesting about art forms like music and books. They're to do with the passing of time. There's a connection of you being taken somewhere on a journey that is not the same as perhaps a painting. It's almost something that is set in that instant. Do you know what I mean? Whereas music and stories unfold with time.
Out on the winding, windy moors, we roll and fall in green. You had a temper like my jealousy, too hard, too greedy. How could you leave me?
Kate Bush's work is often linked with literature.
Just you, I hated you, I loved you too. Bad dreams and
Kate loves narrative because it can both expand and freeze time. It can take us on a journey. It can take us within ourselves or force us to turn outwards. And all those ideas were there right at the start of her career. Were you always reluctant to be a celebrity right from the beginning?
But I don't think of myself as a celebrity. I don't think I am. To me, that's a dirty word, really.
Well, I mean, reluctant to be a pop star then, or reluctant
I don't
to be
like pop
famous?
star either.
I know you don't. You've laughed. I mean, no, famous. You can't argue with famous.
Infamous, I would prefer.
Celebrated. Cherished.
Oh, cherished is lovely. I
Yeah.
don't mind that. I mean, I find it completely ridiculous, this obsession with celebrities. The important people are surgeons and doctors and people who actually put people back together and make a difference to people's lives, not somebody who's in an ad on telly. I mean, okay, so that's valid for what it is too, but why so much attention on something that's so shallow?
Some people seem to kind of want fame just for itself. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. I can't understand that. I mean, you find that kind of difficult because fame, which you've undoubtedly attained, is almost like the unwanted byproduct of what it is that you do, isn't it, really? Has there ever been a time where you enjoyed the fame? When you were younger, did you enjoy being Kate Bush, the pop star? I noticed you laughed when you said pop star, because you obviously don't see yourself as a pop star. But you were a pop star. I saw you on Top of the Pops doing the #1 hit single, so you must have been. Did you ever enjoy that?
I think still there are lots of times when it's fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's important if you can, to try and keep it fun, because, you know, in a lot of ways it's quite ridiculous, really. What I desired was not to be famous. And I think that's the difference. I didn't want to be famous. I wanted to make a record. That was the big thing. And I was on a mission from God. And that's what I was going to do.
Were you always nervous about that? I mean, at the beginning, it must have felt, as a young girl, the music must have felt great.
Nervous about what?
Being known, being famous, being bothered when you go out.
No, I thought it was absolutely hilarious at first.
Even at that age, you kind of, you know...
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And it was... My first record was very successful.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, a big surprise to everybody, really.
Was it a surprise to you?
Yeah, it was. I didn't expect it to do as well as it did. I mean, I hoped it would do well, but it was an extraordinary success for a first record.
You'd worked quite a long time on that, hadn't you? Just very briefly, I don't want to go through all the thing again. I mean, you were kind of signed to EMI for a long time, and they let you alone to sort of find your feet a bit, didn't they?
Well, that's what they say.
Right, so they were pressurising you all the time.
No, they weren't pressurising me. It was quite the opposite. I wanted to make a record, and I think in a lot of ways what they did was they signed me because they could see that there was potential there. Then they just left me, and I think there was an element of them not wanting somebody else to sign me. I mean, through the help of Dave Gilmour, I had at least 2 of the tracks that were on the first album. That was what was presented to the record company. So Man with a Child in His Eyes basically got me signed.
I hear him before I go to sleep and focus on the day that's been. I realize he's there when I turn the light off and turn over. Nobody knows about my man.
Looking back on Kate Bush at that time and how you used to present things, I had a flashback to that Not the 9 O'Clock News, Pamela Stephenson. What was it say? Oh, England, my leotard, or something. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Did you find that flattering? Maybe you found it insulting, or maybe you thought, no, I've arrived because I'm being taken off on Not the 9 O'Clock News, which was the biggest TV show of that era.
Well, I was very flattered because, I mean, she was very beautiful. I think at the time I was very nervous because I was worried that people were just taking the piss out of me, because I was having the piss taken out of me so much by everybody. But I saw it a couple of years later, and I thought it was brilliant. It was really wonderful.
You were marketed in quite a sensual or sexual way, weren't you, at that time?
I don't think I was marketed.
Well, the photographs that came out at that time were, you know, very sensual photographs, weren't they? Very womanly photographs. There was nothing wrong with that, but was that kind of... Did you go along with that, or were you quite surprised to see some of the images when they came out?
But you make it sound like it was something that was put together against my will.
I don't know whether it was or it wasn't. I mean, you were young. It would be quite understandable.
You mean
if some of it did
the early
kind of...
photographs that we used?
Yeah.
Well, no, because at that time I was a dancer, and I think...
That was what you saw yourself as first and foremost, wasn't it?
No, I saw myself as a singer, but I was also a dancer. And how do you present yourself as a singer in a photograph unless you're standing in front of a microphone? I was very comfortable in my body. I was a dancer. Most dancers are, you know. All the dancers, when I was in dance classes, used to wear leotards. There was no big deal.
Yeah.
He's here again, the man with the child in his eyes. He's here again, the man with the child in his eyes.
The Man with the Child in His Eyes, clearly the work of a teenage prodigy. As you'd expect, Kate's new album Ariel is a more mature affair, but it's no less passionate than her early work. But the record also has a playfulness that's really refreshing. She's not afraid to have a laugh. The two songs we talk about next illustrate Kate's playful side and her passionate spirit.
Sensitive man with an obsessive nature and deep fascination for numbers.
When I first heard the album, I didn't have any track listings, and then the next one it seemed to be a sequence of numbers, and I listened to it a few times, and then it picked up on 3.1. And I thought, I'm pretty sure from my basic mathematics, which I haven't done since O-level, because that's how old I am. We are. I think we're about a month apart, actually. I thought that sounds like pi. So why are you writing about numbers in that way? Why did pi become the subject of a song?
I really liked the challenge of singing numbers. Because numbers are so unemotional as a lyric to sing, and it was really fascinating singing that. Trying to sort of put an emotional element into singing about a 7, you know, and to really care about that 9.
And did you care about? I mean, was that?
I really cared.
Why
about that
are you hooked on Sudoku or whatever it's called, number puzzles or something like that? Are you a numerate sort of person?
I find numbers fascinating. I mean, I think the whole idea that nearly anything can be broken down into numbers is a fascinating thing. And I think also we are completely surrounded by numbers now in a way that we weren't, you know, even 20, 30 years ago. We're all walking around with mobile phones and numbers on our foreheads almost, and it's like, you know, computers and, you know, numbers are a very integral part of how we live now.
It's often been said that Kate Bush could sing the telephone book and it would sound fine to me. And you kind of almost done it, really, because it's a sequence of numbers, isn't it? But why pi?
Well, I think...
That's the dog snoring, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think he thought much of that question. He's getting fed up already. I suppose, you know, I find it fascinating that there are people who actually spend their life trying to formulate pi and trying to take it just a few more numbers further, because... Yeah. You know, when I was at school, it was a recurring number. It didn't go into the details past the point, really. So the idea of this number that, in a way, is possibly something that could go on to infinity, and yet people are trying to pin it down and put their mark on it and make it theirs, in a way, I guess.
Then you got a song, Bertie, about your son, in a kind of medieval sort of style that then leaps in consecutive tracks from singing about numbers to singing about your son, you know, to the most emotional subject you could go for there, really.
I suppose really, you know, with a song like that, it could never be special enough, from my point of view.
Here comes the sunshine, here comes the sun of mine, here comes everything.
I wanted to try and give it an arrangement that wasn't terribly obvious. So I went for this sort of early music.
Yeah, no, it's very jaunty and medieval. I mean, it kind of brings a childlike sense of fun to the thing. Being a mother and son, how much has that inspired and infused this record, do you think?
I think it's all over it. it's everywhere in the record. He's such a big part of my life, so he's a very big part of my work.
The life you lead has been because you've prioritised being a mother, more or less, above everything else, isn't it?
Yes. It's such a great thing being able to spend as much time with him as I can. And, you know, he won't be young for very long. You know, already he's starting to grow up, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss out on that. So the idea was that he would come first and then the record would come next, which is also one reason why it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
For me, that was really difficult. At first, I couldn't really work because I'd always had as much time as I wanted in the studio. I'd spend, 14 hours a day working on an idea, just going with the sort of creative flow, and I couldn't do that anymore. And at first I found it crippling because after 2 or 3 hours I'd have to stop. But actually I think it's one of the best things that could have happened, because what it was enforcing me to do was keep standing back from it, and I think that was really good. But also, it's like on holidays as well, I wanted to spend my time with him, so there were very big gaps in the whole process.
Well, you didn't do any work on the album at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easy to see how the time stretches out, isn't it?
Mommy?
As we've already said, Ariel is an album split into 2 parts, A Sea of Honey and A Sky of Honey. The first disc, A Sea of Honey, contains 7 separate songs, whereas the second, A Sky of Honey, is a 9-piece song suite, conceived to be listened to in a single sitting, as Kate had said, to take a listener on a journey.
They're saying a word.
In his review in The Independent, Andy Gill describes Ariel as having a core of contented domesticity at its heart. Nowhere is this more abundantly apparent than in A Sky of Honey. I'm already blocking out summer afternoons from next year's diary so that I can listen to it in my garden. Kate has expressed an understandable reluctance to have pieces of A Sky of Honey played in isolation, outside their proper context. I asked her why.
I feel very strongly about the way things have moved. It's like the art form of an album is seriously under attack with iTunes and people's lack of time or attention span to sit through a whole album. Everything's becoming very fast. Give me a quick hit now, and people will go onto iTunes and just pick the one track they want off an album. They won't listen to the whole album. I know that the album will always exist as an art form, but I think it's a shame. I don't like to see stuff being dissected like that. It's very much a symptom of the way we live now. Everything's sort of disposable.
No, sure, no, I see what you're saying, definitely. Because, I kind of get annoyed if I hear a track from one of my favourite albums, and then the next track doesn't follow it, because that's the sequence of things that I remember, and how I want it to be. And I don't do iTunes, because I can't work it anyway.
Oh, so excited.
What about the relationship between your voice and the bird song? Because it's almost like there are parts of the record where you let your voice have free rein, don't you? It's kind of, you've got a wide octave range anyway, but you really kind of let rip with the voice. It's almost like kind of taking off into flight, really, at times, isn't it?
Well, I suppose I was just playing with the idea of how could human language connect with birdsong.
There's times when it's almost like the rhythm of wood pigeons or something. They're creating their own natural rhythm through their voices. Or well, perhaps it's a manipulated natural rhythm. You spent ages getting to be just dropping the right places.
No, it is just the natural rhythm. I think birdsong is a really beautiful sound. What I find interesting about it too is the way that they mark the day. Like, for instance, the dawn chorus. They seem to be very strongly connected with light. And I think in some ways that was one of the sort of explorations I was trying to go off on with this.
Yeah.
The connection between their song and light and the passing of day. And as the sun goes down, all the birds sing again, don't they? They're all beautiful thrush and blackbird songs.
Apart from her feathered friends, Kate has invited some other old acquaintances to help her on Ariel. Here's one of them. Can you hear who it is yet?
Yes, I need to get that tone a little bit lighter there. Maybe with some dark accents coming in from this side. That's good.
How did Rolf come to be involved again then?
So it's very interesting because when people hear the records, the only 2 points that they stop to comment while they're listening is after King of the Mountain, people go, "There's real drums." And I think, my God, where have we got to that people actually have to comment that there's real drums on the track? And then the next point they comment is when Rolf comes in and they go, "Is that Rolf Harris?" And they have this sort of really childlike, delighted look on their face. Because they know it's Rolf, but they just want it to be confirmed.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about how he's touched a lot of people. He's like a national treasure of ours now, isn't he? I mean...
Well, he's been around ever since we were kids, hasn't he? And all the public safety swimming adverts and things like that.
Yeah, it's really a part of our culture, and I think he's a very talented guy as well. I think we all recognise him as a brilliant painter, a very seriously accomplished painter.
A portraitist by royal appointment now, isn't he?
Absolutely. And I suppose really that's why he sprung to mind, was because I needed a singing painter.
Right, yeah, and there aren't many,
There aren't many, are
in
there?
the Yellow Pages.
It was an accident.
You got Rolf doing the painting, and that's weaved through. And you talk about the light in Italy at one point, and you talk about the rain goes on Rolf's painting and smudges the colours and things.
It's the best mistake he could make.
There's a track on there called An Architect's Dream, and in that there's a line where you say it was the best mistake he could have made. I mean, is that a kind of key phrase that, like, even though you've got this precise way and these sounds in your head, that sometimes it's what you might call the mistakes or the accidents that are kind of the really special moments on things?
The flick of a wrist.
Yeah, well, I think in a lot of creative process, that's the best thing that can happen to you, is to make a mistake. And it's something that you would never have consciously thought of. It just happens, and then it gives you somewhere to go off to that is far more interesting than something you would have thought of.
There's a lot of kind of folk instruments pop up. There's a lot of technology and your kind of fairlights and things like that, right at the forefront of technology. But you seem to you want to humanise it with some kind of texture of folk instruments that you've used on different records.
I really like the combination of technology and acoustic, and I think it's very interesting to combine the two.
Yeah.
So you get a kind of, I don't know, just an interesting textural thing that comes with using very warm acoustic sounding instruments with very cold electronic sounding.
Yeah.
Curving and sweeping, rising and reaching, I could feel what he was feeling. Watching the
So here's some aerial theories, right, of mine. Okay. A mother and son relationship. There's a lot of water images in what you do. Ariel is the Little Mermaid. There's one. Sylvia Plath wrote a collection of poems called Ariel, very intense love poems.
Did she?
Yeah. There's Shakespearean spirit in The Tempest, Ariel, spirit of the air, summoning up the tempest.
always the same.
There's also Ariel washing powder for the washing machine we were talking about before.
Product placement.
So, none of those, presumably.
Well, I think all of them and many more. But that's what I liked about the word, was it's got so many levels to it. It actually means of the air. And, also I always have an image of Ariel suggesting height as well. So it felt like it worked very well for the second disc, with the theme of birds. And also an aerial is something that collects and gives out sound waves, and we've all got aerials connected to our televisions and our mobile phones, and I just thought it was an interesting word that had lots of puns.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. Here's Rolf Harris in your garden, painting a picture with all the bird song going on and everything, and it seems to be a kind of dream sequence that develops into some midsummer night from that. Anything in that? Or am I clutching at straws?
No, I think that's great. I think it's what you want it to be. If that's how you see it, then I think that's lovely.
It's wrong.
I don't know if it's
No,
wrong.
it's not wrong, but
it's not wrong. It might be not what I thought of when I was writing it. But I don't think that particularly matters. If it does something for you and it takes you on a journey, then that's great. Somebody said to me, they said it's not like listening to a record, it's like watching a film or something. And that was just the most fantastic compliment anybody could have said. I mean, if that's the only good thing anybody says, that's wonderful.
Time constraints mean that sadly we can't present the whole of A Sky of Honey as Kate intends it to be heard. That's a genuine shame, because when taken as one continuous piece of music, it's breathtaking. But one of the pieces from the suite, which I feel gives a real flavour of the whole thing, is called Somewhere in Between. Here it is.
This is where the shadows come to play twixt the day and night. Dancing and skipping along the cheek of light. Somewhere in between the waxing and the waiting. Somewhere in between all the song and the silences. Somewhere in between the ticking and the talking clock. Somewhere in a dream between sleep and waking up. Somewhere in between breathing out and breathing in. The twilight is neither night nor morning. Not one of us would dare to break the silence. Oh, how we have longed for something that would make us feel so. Somewhere in between the waxing and the wailing wait. Somewhere in between the night and the daylight. Somewhere in between the ticking and talking clock. Somewhere in between what the song and the silence say.
That was Somewhere in Between, a section of the Sky of Honey disc from Kate Bush's new album Ariel. And you're listening to Mark Radcliffe on Radio 2, and I'm talking with Kate Bush. Ariel has been 12 years, on and off, in the making. For a major artist like Kate Bush, the responsibility to get the work finished must have been almost suffocating at times. Do you need a team of people around you to enable you to do the work, or do you work a lot on your own?
I think a lot of the process is quite insular. It's similar to being a writer, as you know. It's that quiet place again. But yes, I do have to have a team around me, and there's a small group of people who is very important to me, their feedback.
On this midsummer.
You know, it's very important to me what Danny thinks of my stuff. And what's
He's
great...
your partner and Bertie's dad.
And he's very critical, which is fantastic. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Everyone is sleeping.
Who else?
Well, I suppose, you know, within the studio context, I worked with the sound engineer that I've worked with for a very long time. So...
That's Dal.
Yeah, so that's important too.
Yeah.
But you know, what's interesting is I think sometimes when people said that you can't do that or it wouldn't work, it was actually the beginning of something that made me think, also, this must be quite interesting then. Because in a way, I think you have to make things that you like. And if somebody says that they don't like it, it's challenging your own thoughts of whether you really think it's any good or not. And if you really do think it's good, even if people say they don't like it, there's maybe just this sense in there somewhere that you think, well, maybe it's not right yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not good.
Lead right up to the sea. No one is here. No one is here. We stand.
That's what's good about having people around you who are quite critical.
Right. So sometimes the criticism can be a really positive thing then.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though you've got this team of people, this support network of people who you need around you, it's in no way a democracy. It's your record, and what you kind of make your own decision, absolutely. I mean, you write it and you produce it. It's entirely your vision at the end.
Yes, and that's what's the buzz for me. I don't think I could work with a producer. I'd find it totally infuriating.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't like it.
When you've got a new album like this and you're very proud of it, reaction is very positive. Is there any part of you that thinks, actually, I wish I could get out on stage and do this for people?
Yes.
But you won't.
I don't know if I won't. Normally something else comes along to sort of take me away from even pursuing the idea any further, but yeah, I would like to do some shows.
So you wouldn't rule it out?
No, I wouldn't rule it out, but then I haven't ruled it out for the last 20 odd years.
It just
I haven't
hasn't
done it yet.
Have you got songs lying about that might form the basis for another record?
No.
No, nothing. Not one
No,
song.
there's bits and pieces, but I wouldn't use them.
Right. Because at current rates, if you repeat the gap between Red Shoes and Area, we should expect a new album in 2017. Is there any prospect it would be sooner?
Well, I hope so, yes. I mean, I like to be unpredictable because, I've heard this before that it would, I'd be like 84 or something with the next one, but I like to think that I'm not that easy to pin down.
That's for sure. Do you feel a relief now it's out? Is it great to have it finished?
Yes.
Is it also frightening because now you've got to kind of see what people think of it?
No, it's fantastic. I'm so excited about it coming out. And it took so long to make. I just thought I was never going to finish it.
Did you? There were days when you were sort of almost crying with frustration and beating the mixing desk because you thought we're never going to finish
I
it.
don't know about beating the mixing desk, but it just took so long to try and piece it all together and try and make it work. And there was so many times I just thought I wasn't going to have the energy or the strength just to try and finish it. So it's fantastic relief to have it all done. And I mean, when I first finished it, I felt like I'd been let out on good behaviour.
Did you doubt what the response would be?
I think I did worry about there being such a long gap. I was worried that without wanting to sound sentimental, I was worried that people would forget about me.
Oh, the dawn has come, and the wine will run, and the sun must be sung, and the flowers are melting.
Kate Bush, through the quality of her work and the way she chooses to live her life, is one of that select group of artists who've become, what would be the word? I think cherished is about right. And inevitably, having delivered a contemporary classic like Ariel to us last year, Kate has once again retreated into her private world. I hope she won't stay too long this time. I'm not getting any younger. We have to respect that she plays by her own rules. She's a working mother, and as the mothering bit is what matters most, it seems appropriate to end with her singing about her own mother. Thanks for Ariel, Kate, and for having me round to lunch. See you soon, I hope. This is the Coral Room.
There's a city draped in net, fisherman net, and in the half-light, it looks like every town is covered in webs. Moving and glistening and rocking its babies in rhythm as the spider of time is climbing over the There were hundreds of people living here, sails at the windows, and the planes came crashing down. And many a pilot drowned, and the speedboats flying above. Put your hand over the side of the boat, and what do you feel? My mother, and a little brown jug, it held her milk. And now it holds our memories. I can hear her singing. Little brown jug, don't I love thee? Little brown jug, don't I love thee? Ho, ho, ho.
Little brown jug, don't I love thee? Little brown jug, don't I love thee?
I hear her laughing. She is standing in the kitchen as we come in
And if you're an albums fan, you can vote for your favourite number one album by visiting our website at bbc.co.uk/radio2. And you can tune in to our album countdown on Bank Holiday Monday, August the 28th, between 2 and 5.
On 88 to 91 FM, this is Radio 2 from the BBC.